moving in, taking a bit of fire. Anti-tank gun also moving in. The Fallschirmjäger are slowly holding their trigger fingers, waiting to unleash the ambush, and now the Americans are charging in, getting awfully close, But the Luftwaffe are patient, they are disciplined, they are elite, and now they open fire, unleashing all kinds of hell, and already in seconds 5 American infantrymen are dead. And there we go, a lot of dead infantry in seconds, all because of an excellent ambush by those 8 Luftwaffe troopers, a small Luftwaffe Fallschirmjäger squad, unleashing all kinds of lead hell. So that was certainly a nice job. Will they be seizing this recoilless rifle? Could certainly grab them some anti-tank assets. Tank depot not really glaring up though, and we see some engineers sneaking about in the west. But the Sperrverband has really turned the tide thanks to the Fallschirmjägers and the Panzer IV. And we do see a Kampfgruppe company going up as well. Quite interesting. He will now have all of the base buildings. Question is, what will he be going for? And Fallschirmjäger setting up for an ambush once more. Apparently this one having a bit of trouble though. Cloaking, he might want to consider getting close to the cover. And engineer team taken out by the elite Panzer Grenadiers with their Gewehr 43s. And there we see American riflemen moving out, and the tank depot is lighting up. Will it be an M10, or will he be slightly wiser and get the Sherman tank, since there won't be much to actually resist it? Fallschirmjäger opening fire on the riflemen, forcing them back and to reconsider their route. They could, for example, go towards the east and the west instead of just running straight at the enemy. And my goodness, Mr. Gulcasa has actually used his Luftwaffe troops to wire off these areas. Quite clever. Quite clever, and certainly a lot of bad use.
The enemy is down to 200 points.
Of course, not exactly the most permanent barrier, but any rifleman will be turned away, and they'll be needing engineers, which will certainly give more time to react. And Kampfgruppe company upgrade. So that's quite interesting. And there we go, he's going for Panthers, hoping for some Panthers to really reinforce his line and secure himself against the final threat. Shermans, and there we go. Will it also get the 50 caliber upgrade? Those Fallschirmjägers will have a bit of a trouble though, but they will certainly be able to knock out the attendant infantry, and the Sherman charging in with 50 caliber gun. And those Fallschirmjägers are certainly not looking good, but the second team is ready, still cloaked, still sneaky, and opening fire on the riflemen right behind the Sherman as the Sherman charges in, doing quite a bit of damage to those riflemen, in fact killing a few before retreating. Panzer IV and some Luftwaffe ground forces, a small squad in fact has appeared in total, doing their best to hold back this Sherman, but they're not having much luck. Panzer is retreating, and of course no anti-tank weapons for these troops. And we see anti-tank grenades being used, quite devious, doing quite a bit of damage to the Sherman, but they are not enough, and they will have to retreat. Panzer IV now also forced to retreat as the anti-tank gun blasts away. And we are seeing a nice orderly retreat from the Luftwaffe ground forces, the Felddivision squad, as the Sperrverband is doing its best to not panic totally and hold the line in the face of the enemy. But certainly getting closer to those 1,000 manpower required for the Panther battle group and the demise of the Sherman. Will there be some engineers prepared? Yes, there we go. But not a lot left remaining for the Americans. And now we are seeing Panzer Grenadiers and the Luftwaffe leading the charge. Now some Panzer Schrecks being equipped. So they will certainly be quite a handful for the Americans. And we have a bit of quiet. And the Luftwaffe taking cover behind that wrecked railroad car, but protected from the anti-tank gun. Now the Sherman joining in as well. Tank buster team taking quite heavy losses. Strafing run moving in, suppressing, in fact pinning them, but not really doing much, which is something thanks to the patch. If your troops are spread out well enough, a strafing run won't do much except force them down to the ground. But the riflemen are quick to use this to charge in and close the distance, really unleashing firepower and doing quite a bit of damage, but the Panzer IV is putting the fear of the fatherland into them, forcing them into a vast retreat, killing most of the American infantry teams. Oh goodness gracious, this is really horrific. And Panzer Faust hammering into the M4. And only seconds away from a Panther battle group. And there we go. Panthers on the way. Panzer V will be able to really help out the Sperrverband as they hold the line in the face of all those nasty Americans. The Sherman really doing its best to hold those ArhsMiavz at bay, but now we have these Panther moving in, and airborne are being called in. And there we go, main gun destroyed, an absolutely horrific explosion. And quite a nice image we have there, as I'm sure you can imagine, quite action-laden, really epic and cinematic. So let's hold it there, while of course looking at the sort of lessons that can be learned. And in fact, what lessons can be learned? Well, scout cars, they aren't really armored cars, they need to support something, for example Panzer Grenadiers, in which case they can actually operate quite decently, of course, harassing and taking territory, in which they did alright in, but of course using them as some armored cars on their own, they're going to be torn apart quite quickly. Other bits are, of course, as the Americans, you really want to lay down some mines, you don't want to constantly be moving around everywhere. You want a really decent fight against the Panzer Elite, holding them up, possibly getting a medic station and getting down some mines. He really didn't get either. He got some airborne, began doing alright, but again he seemed to be a bit unsure and lost a lot of infantry. Never really laid down a defensive line or any sort of territory that was held. Instead he floundered, and of course anti-tank guns being unguarded. Again, bad move. Gulcasa could of course also have prepared a bit better by, for example, taking some of those anti-tank guns or recoilless rifles. And of course other bits, I'm not entirely sure what else, but I hope you enjoyed this game, and if you did, why not subscribe or tell your friends, and if you didn't, well, why not send in a replay of your own. This is Imperial Dane saying ArhsMiavz are the best. Cheers.